What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant, the podcast. We have some cool stuff to talk about. I mean, we always have cool stuff to talk about, but I feel like this is a particularly heavier week.
Yeah, this was a hot and heavy news week. So a lot of cool things came out.
Yes.
We got a lot of cool news because we're at that time of the early portion of the year where everybody starts announcing what's going on for that year. Yep. So both films, television series, and comics all kind of colliding simultaneously. Yeah. That's some of our favorite stuff because they start really announcing like the big heavy stuff.
Like all the event books for comic books.
Exactly.
And, a lot of the even for stuff that's coming out more recently, because I feel like ever since the pandemic hit, trailers have been a lot closer to the films or TV series, where you would get a trailer like a year in advance, and now it's like 2 months before the movie, then you get a trailer.
That window has definitely dramatically reduced,
which is kind of cool. I guess it makes a little more sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense in the time that we're in, as we talked about, where everybody's trying to scoop spoilers and stuff like this. It reduces that window, I think, down for a lot of that to some degree, anyway. So yeah, it's fun. But we just got kind of to lead off. One of the big things that we finally got is our first look at Disney Plus's series, The Moon Knight.
Well, first teaser.
The first teaser. I mean, it's a trailer. It's the first real look at, the first real look at Moon Knight himself. But they also dropped the release date. Yes. Which was a lot sooner than...
I thought it was going to be around summer.
I thought it was going to be late spring, early summer, but it's actually like March 30th is the drop day.
So that's like, for what, 2 months from now?
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy.
So pretty soon.
So what's filling in the gap between... So Boba's going to end. Are they going to have a gap between Boba and then Moon Knight? Or is there something in the middle?
It's a small gap, I think, between, because Boba is 7 episodes.
So we got three weeks left of Boba Fett as of this podcast.
So you're looking at early February, Boba will end. So you're going to have a small gap there.
Yeah, so like a month.
We'll get oh no, we're not getting because they moved Morbius. So yeah, there's just a gap.
It's just curious.
Unless I'm forgetting something that's in February.
We could be, because Disney Plus usually is like a 2 to 3 week gap, not like a month and a half. That's a pretty big gap for them.
That's a larger spread than usual, yeah.
But anyway, the Moon Knight teaser trailer, the first official one, which is like just under 2 minutes. It's like 158, 150 something. I loved it. I mean, loved it.
I don't even know if I would call it a teaser, because it gave us a really solid look at not just the movie and or the show rather, and what it will be like, but also what his character is going to be like.
Yeah.
And
one version of his character at least.
Right. And you saw the machinations of what he's doing with the character. And we speculated already. We already talked about Oscar Isaac is just a brilliant performer and actor.
He's become one of my favorite actors.
Really good. And he's doing absolutely everything right now. That dude is everywhere. It's unbelievable.
He's Moon Knight. He's Spider-Man 2099, which, for Spider-Verse 2 coming out later this year.
That's right.
He's Poe Dameron from the new Star Wars trilogy. And a lot of good dramas and stuff. He had this new HBO Max limited series, which was really good, with Jessica Chastain, called Scenes of a Marriage, or... So I believe that's what it's called.
I think it's Scenes from a Marriage.
Scenes from a Marriage, right. Really, really solid series. So he's keeping busy, and he's doing some good work.
No kidding. No kidding. And everything he does, he's good. And I feel like he's one of those performers that gets better over time. Yeah. He just keeps getting better and better and better. So them casting him in this role, you and I both were already like, this is a character who deals with dissociative dissociative
disorder,
personality disorder, or is it? I can't remember the name. I'm sorry, but he deals with multiple personalities essentially, and that is like already ripe for a good actor to turn in a killer performance,
kind of like James McAvoy with Split.
Correct, exactly right. So we were already kind of watching like, what's he gonna do? And this trailer, like, he's doing a very unique voice for the character and everything, so that he can kind of switch things up. Again, very similar to what McAvoy did in Split with that character. It looks so good from a storytelling perspective. This looks like it's going to be another level for a Disney Plus series.
I will say, trailer-wise, as far as the Marvel stuff goes, this is probably the best Disney Plus Marvel trailer we've gotten thus far.
I would argue it's the best Disney Plus show, period. As far as a
trailer
look as a show.
Yeah.
Period.
Because we had several people here watch it in the office who aren't, really big comic book fans. Like, they're not as nerdy as we are about it. So they knew it was something coming out, but they all were watching. They're like, this is a movie, right? And they're like, we're like, no, this is a TV show. Like, what? This is a TV show?
Right.
So, and there's like 3 different people in the office when we showed it to them who did that. And it just shows you the quality here that we say it all the time. And people who watch the shows all the time like us know that these Disney Plus shows are literally just, they're movie budgets.
Right.
They're just broken down into like 40-minute episodic episodes.
Yeah.
So it's crazy when you have people who aren't as on top of it as we are. They're like, movie? No, they're like, what do you mean no? It's like a TV show.
Right.
So it just shows the quality that Disney Plus is putting out across the board, especially for their Star Wars and Disney stuff. But man, like you were saying, Oscar Isaac looks fantastic. We see Khonshu briefly in here, the moon god in here.
Dude, Ethan
creepy,
Hawke.
Dude. I'm kind of, we were talking about it. Like, do you like that they're not telling us who the villains are with these shows? Because Ethan Hawke is in it, but like, is he the bad guy?
Right.
Is he a kind of weird form of Khonshu? Is he Shadow Knight, which is another Moon Knight character, the brother of Moon Knight? Like, we don't really know.
I mean, he's clearly someone that is inciting, Mark to move toward whatever, however Khonshu is spun in the show.
Yeah.
Okay? We know how he is in the comics, but, we don't know what the MCU spin on this character fully is going to be.
Yeah.
But he's telling him, like, there's chaos in you. And he's like, embrace it, basically. So we don't know if that means, I don't know. My wonder is, because again, we don't know who Ethan Hawke's character is. I'm wondering, is he some kind of a projection of Khonshu?
Could be.
Is he like because you see there's a scene where everybody kneels
Like
before
bowing to him,
Ethan Hawke. So is it like, is he a projection of him into a human, or is he like part-time possessing Ethan Hawke, or is he some sort of a herald?
I was going to say, or if he's kind of, like like a pastor, some kind of evangelic, like, person who's preaching the word of, like,
right.
This moon god, and they all kind of bow to him because he's a vessel for Khonshu or something, or a head disciple of Khonshu. I don't know. We don't know. There's a lot of ways we can go. He could be Khonshu himself. He could be like you were saying, some kind of pastor figure, even completely not even with Khonshu in the sense that he's like Shadow Knight. I think it'd be really cool if he was like Mark Spector's brother. That would be interesting. I don't know if they would do that out the gate, but that'd be kind of cool. But Ethan Hawke, he's great. And Ethan Hawke is one of those actors that he's not in a whole lot, but when you see him in something, you're like, Ethan Hawke.
Yeah. And one thing I did want to mention too, I kind of wanted to mention this up front, and I don't want to forget, is one thing we have to mention, man, is one of the characters that was set and is set to appear in the show, which is Midnight Man. And the actor, Gaspar Ulliel, he actually was killed.
Oh, was he?
Earlier this week. He was killed in a skiing accident.
Oh, no.
And at 37 years old, that young man died.
Wow.
Which is just a tragic accident that obviously is going to now be a real downer for everyone involved in the show.
Yeah, cast and crew. Yeah.
Because this is a finished product, the show. And he died in a tragic accident this week. Just kind of a piece of tragedy that hit this show. And I want to make sure to say that up front, and just our heartfelt, love and best wishes to his family, and everybody over at Marvel Studios who was working with him and, whose friends and family. That's just awful. So I wanted to acknowledge that also before we got any further into, not to put like a damper on the conversation.
I didn't even know that. Did that just break this morning or something?
No, that broke yesterday or the day before.
Oh man, that is so unfortunate.
I know. In a skiing accident, he had a head collision and he didn't survive, unfortunately. I mean, just really tragic. Again, only 37 years old.
And we were just talking, we obviously plan a lot of the episodes released on Van Around shows and movies and stuff. And we were going to cover that character, the character he's playing. Probably still am, obviously, but man, that's crazy. That's very unfortunate.
Extremely unfortunate, and obviously it's just so, first and foremost, obviously, is like the human element of that is that's just an awful tragedy. This is an up and coming performer, but and then you have the other side, the actual business side, which is obviously secondary. But now they just were introducing this character of Midnight Man to the show, Anton Mogert, and now, they're going to have to, It's going to change. So what we're going to see initially in the Moon Knight, that's going to change somehow.
Well, we don't know how big
by necessity
his role is even in the show.
We don't.
It could be a massive part. It could be a little part.
Yeah.
But
either way, it's really, really tragic, and something that would have been just like a really cool add to the MCU. Now all of a sudden, like right out of the gate,
I feel bad for
it's really a downer.
Obviously for his family and loved ones, first and foremost, but even the cast and crew, they're just gonna start press pretty soon.
Yeah,
that's not gonna be fun.
Yeah,
because I'm sure he would have obviously been on the press tour.
Exactly right.
That sucks.
And these Marvel, these Marvel casts, they tend to be a tight knit group. For obvious reasons. So that's just really heartbreaking for everybody all the way around.
I mean, I guess, the show is probably going to, I would imagine his performance is going to be well received, and the show's going to be really well received. So it's not much, but I guess that would be some kind of light for the family, that he's going to get the recognition and stuff like that. And
yeah, it'll be a good tribute.
Yeah, so
in the end,
it's one of those things where like that stuff doesn't really matter, but you kind of have to look at the upside, I guess, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's just really tragic.
Anyway, we got to bring it back.
Now we'll bring it back to the actual show itself. Now that we've hit the difficult part.
Yeah.
But getting back to Ethan Hawke, his character, whoever he ends up being, looks great in the trailer, and his interactions with, Mark Spector look awesome. But above everything, it's Oscar Isaac's performance. Dude, that is just captivating from the beginning to the end.
When he's staring at himself in the mirror and his reflection is like slapping himself or beating himself in the head, so just allows a moment where he's holding the gun inside the truck. Yeah. He's like, what? Then he drops it and the guy falls out of the back of the truck. Like, it's going to be fun. Did you see the clip of him and Ethan Hawke watching the trailer together? No, I didn't.
They did, Marvel released this little clip of them on the night it was released, them watching the trailer.
Right.
Or whenever it was that they saw it, and they're like talking and joking and messing with each other about their characters and stuff like that. And he comments on that part where he starts slapping himself. He just goes, that was a lot of self-inflicted pain. It was really funny. But yeah, even that tail end of the teaser where he says, why did you call me Mark?
Yes,
it's just the way that he's doing the voice. That's just so good.
Well, I'm curious to see if he is going to do different voices for every, because in the trailer, it seems like he's just the one guy. He's the one, I guess that's his main personality, dealing with all these other versions of himself. Or, like, we're assuming he's going to have all these other talking voices and personalities, but we don't know for sure if they're actually going to go that full. He's like that in the comic books. We don't know if they're going to do that. Yep. For the show and the MCU, but it seems like they're definitely playing with something that's, he's not getting, because why did you call me Mark? So he clearly, there's some other personality or version of himself out there that he's like, what is happening? But I did want to mention, because it seems like the internet is kind of split on his costume. Like, it's a pretty big topic of debate right now.
Which I think is interesting.
Like, because for me, I love it. I think it's cool.
I do too. I love it.
It's really, really cool. Because it seems like the side that doesn't like it is because they're saying it's very mummy-esque. Like, and it's like this supernatural suit, almost like a symbiote, which comes on him. It's not an actual costume, where like in the books, it's an actual costume. There's several versions. So people are like, one, why does it look like he's a mummy wrapped in mummy wraps? And two, why is it like this supernatural symbiote freaking costume? And I say it all the time. I do not mind changes in, the shows and movies as long as they're for the better. And I think this works perfectly. I think this is one of those things where, like, yeah, that makes sense. Because, one, he is possessed by Khonshu, the moon god. Like, that's like, exactly, so it would make sense that Khonshu is the one giving him that costume, which is magical or supernatural. And now it comes on him when he transforms. Plus, even just besides the supernatural element of the costume, it looks awesome. Again, Egypt, mummies, yeah, it makes sense that they would kind of model it after like mummy wraps in a real world practical version. It's like that just makes sense given the Egyptian background. So I don't really understand the complaint there with that's.
I don't either. In fact, that was one of the very first things that I noticed. That's one of the things I was going to bring up, was that his suit is inspired clearly by the mummy. I love that.
Yeah,
I don't expect the suit to be identical to comics in, every single solitary time. Most of them aren't. They're similar.
But I would even say,
and I think that they did. I think they made it incredibly similar.
That's what I was gonna say. I still think it's like 80% accurate to the books.
It's so similar to what's in the comics. It's just what the suit is clearly is different. How it comes on him, how he transforms into Moon Knight. Clearly, they're going a different direction.
Like Spawn style.
But I actually love the mummy take. I think it looks dope.
Yeah, no, it looks, and it makes sense.
And I mean, I'm a classic monster movie fan, as you are, of the Universal monsters. So maybe I'm a little biased. I just thought that was a dope idea with the Egyptian mythology around
That's what I'm saying.
and the character.
It's a very organic, fit. Because it's like, yes, Egypt is like the whole background of this thing, the moon god. It's just that, of course, it would kind of be stylized or modeled in that way. Plus, again, I still think it looks extremely accurate to the comic books. Like, because if not, it would just been a white costume and then probably like, the armored plating or what they do or like the patterns and stuff, where I think this is a better way of like, no, it's like magical mummy wrap stuff. And again, we don't need, it's probably when we watch the show, it'll probably be explained even better. We're just going off, and the whole internet's going off of that brief clip you see of it coming on him. And then the next page where you see him like freaking punching a monster Egyptian beast thing into the ground before he turns and faces the camera for like literally a second or two. So I'm on the side where I actually love the costume, and I'm sure when we get an even bigger and longer look at it, I'm just going to love it even more.
Well, I'm going to, first of all, I agree with everything you just said, but also I'm looking right here, and they appear to have announced or revealed who Ethan Hawke's character is.
Did they?
And it is Dr. Arthur Harrow from the Moon Knight comics.
Huh, that's a twist.
Who is a genius scientist. And in the Moon Knight comics, like his backstory is he's basically an evil scientist.
Yeah. So no connection to Khonshu in the sense that not like,
at least in comics.
Yes.
So we don't know what they're going to do with him, but his character in the series is Arthur Harrow.
Did they just put this on IMDb or what? Yeah.
They just put it up. So
we just looked like yesterday or whatever. That's funny.
Looked when we were prepping for today. We just looked to make sure that hadn't come out, and it just went up. I just saw that. So we do know who Ethan Hawke is, and now we can kind of dive into the speculation of, okay, what is that going to mean potentially for the Moon Knight series? Because in the Moon Knight comics, this is when I say evil scientist, his backstory, he's connected to the experiments that were performed in in Auschwitz and Birkenau,
right,
by the Nazis. So, and he's tied to a group known as Omnium. So it's there. It doesn't get more evil than that, I guess. That he basically is exposed to the Nuremberg trials. They tried to get hidden what he was connected to, and that he was potentially carrying on these experiments that were being conducted by Nazis and stuff like that. So it doesn't get darker than that. But what's the spin going to be in Moon Knight? We don't know. But clearly, this is not. If it's in any way connected to the character in the comics, this is clearly going to be a villain
for sure. And I mean, it's Ethan Hawke, because Oscar Isaac is already the hero, so Ethan Hawke has to be like the bad guy because those are the two starring roles. But I'm wondering, like you said, how close are they going to keep that to the books? Because they change stuff all the time. Recently in Hawkeye with freaking Swordsman, where like they built him up. Spoiler: they built him up to be like, you think he's the bad guy, and at the end he's like, no, he's actually like the good guy who's funny and kind of lovable. So it's like where in the books he helped train Hawkeye, but turned out to be a douchebag who stole and stuff like that. So they flip things all the time. So I'm wondering where they're going to go with that and how true it will stay to the books.
It's very interesting. I think now that I'm kind of going through it in my head, it's a very interesting concept, because if you look at some of the legends and some of the information around the Nazis, one of the things that, and it's been played on in movies and stories since, World War II era.
I love how Nazi is like, it's always, if you want like a real bad guy.
Yeah, it's like the quintessential evil.
Yeah, because it's like, what's more evil than a Nazi?
For sure. We kind of view that as the embodiment of evil. But one of the things that Hitler was very fascinated in was the occult and ancient mythologies and stuff like that. So I'm wondering now, will they have Dr. Harrow in some way, shape, or form be obsessed with Khonshu or Egyptian lore and be looking, maybe something, tie that somehow to what Nazis were experimenting with, and he's picked up on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he's exploring like the potential of that and what that could be used for, because he's discovered that these gods are real. You know what I mean? And their power is real, and he wants to exploit it somehow.
I wonder if
maybe he's himself like one of the priests of Khonshu, because you see one of the priests of Khonshu at least I believe that's what it is in the teaser, where that all white like creepy monster looking thing.
Yeah, he's coming towards
he's coming towards Mark Spector. It's I believe that's one of the priests of Khonshu, but. Maybe Ethan Hawke is himself trying to be, or is one of the priests of Khonshu. I don't know. There's different ways they could go with it, but that's an interesting ad.
Well, I'm also wondering now, because in the books, Dr. Harrow's also I said Harold, didn't I? Or Harrow? Dr. Harrow. Dr. Harrow. He's responsible for putting the implant in Hammerhead's head. The doctor. So that's connections to possible Spider-Man.
Maybe so.
Or could you imagine like getting some little crossover there? I mean, probably not going to happen. And I'm kind of jaded from speculating all these big crossovers with the Disney Plus show.
Yeah.
But it's still fun to think about the possibilities. It's like, oh, if he did this, then this could technically happen. It might not, but it could. So I'm wondering, if by the end we'll get any sort of connection there, or maybe even like a Black Knight connection, because we got that introduced to us in Eternals, but it was explored like not at all.
Right.
Just a little tease at the end. So I'm wondering, what's going to connect here, if any. But that's cool. That's really, really cool. So now, man, so I'm wondering, though, like if Khonshu's still going to be portrayed as a bad guy in this series to an extent. You know what I mean? Because him and Mark Spector don't necessarily get along the best, especially at the beginning.
I don't know.
I don't know. Curious.
Yeah, if nothing else, because everybody now is like crazy curious of what this show is going to bring to the MCU. But if nothing else, I think this is going to be a wild ride of a show in terms of like just the performance and the actual storytelling itself.
This could be the best Disney Plus Marvel show.
We
thus
keep
far.
saying that over and over again, but they do keep bringing different.
That's good, right? That's good,
it's great that they keep taking it up a notch. And they keep bringing, these new characters, these new concepts to where it's like, oh, that's something they have not explored yet.
But Moon Knight
Moon Knight's really unique, and we've said that from the beginning.
Yes.
This has been my most anticipated Disney Plus show going into 2022. It's Moon Knight.
I remember the first year variant back in 2012, where one of the episodes, I was like, this guy needs to have, because, it's when the first Avengers movie came out. I was like, this guy needs to be in the MCU. Flash forward, literally a decade later, he's making his debut. So I'm so happy it's happening. He's a very fan-loved character in the comics, so it makes sense that for them to bring him over to live action. But the one caveat I have is the Moon Knight, I said it from the beginning, the show looks great and stuff, but he's a very rated R character. He is a Batman that kills, rips head off, limbs, cuts, like it's very bloody.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how the MCU handles this, because they ain't going R. They're not putting something R on Disney Plus. So it's not going to happen.
It might get close.
I mean, there's even I just saw a clip last night where when the San Diego Comic-Con, where they announced Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and a fan was like yelling, "Make it R!" And Kevin Feige literally stopped, addressed the audience and said, "It will be PG-13 and you will like it." And then went back to the crowd, because it's like, he knows like Disney's not going to, they have to hit PG-13 so they get a bigger demographic. So, but I'm curious though, like, you could still do it and make it violent and cool with not showing it in PG-13. I'm just like, I don't want them to sacrifice who the character really is just to get the PG-13 rating, but I feel like you could find a good middle ground. So I mean, even the poster shows Moon Knight with a freaking bloody like Moonblade.
Yeah,
so
I'm of the we've talked about this so many times. I'm just of the opinion it's like, I don't think you need to go so all in for it to be good.
No, but it's just like there's certain elements of a character,
camera tricks.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, if they do stuff where he's violent and he's doing something and you just don't see it, it's fine. But you have to have that essence of like, oh, this guy will take my head off and has taken people's heads off, And and you can absolutely do that
in a way that is, you are relaying the brutality of the character, how dark the character is, without literally on camera showing in detail the gory, aspects of it in detail. So, but yeah, I think that they're going to do a fine job with that. And in the end, for me, I think this show is going to end up being all about Oscar Isaac's performance of his mental illness and him dealing with that within the context of becoming Moon Knight.
It's going to be, I feel like the show has more horror tones to it than even the Multiverse of Madness trailer we got, when that one is like pegged as like the MC horror movie.
And this looks way more horror driven.
Just like with the freaking, almost the mind games it's going to be playing, the darkness it has to it, where like he doesn't know what's going on. It's creepy. He sees reflections in the mirror. Khonshu looks like this freaking creepy monster coming towards him, and then it turns into an old lady, and he has to be like, sorry, my contact fell out. Like all this stuff. Anyway, all that to say, this freaking trailer looks awesome, and I can't wait for the series.
Well, one thing I also will say is that explains, going back to Ethan Hawke, because again, I'm still now thinking about this, is that explains why everyone was kneeling to him. Because in one of the things that we know Ethan Hawke said in the past was that he was framing this character around David Koresh, the cult leader. But he didn't say who the character was.
Right.
So he just said that was kind of his inspiration for this character, whoever it was.
That must have been I want to check his search history.
Yeah, right. So that explains. So they may be taking this scientist they may be doing some kind of a hybrid of him being this brilliant Nobel Prize, nominated scientist who was secretly continuing the Nazi experiments, and then formed a cult, maybe a Khonshu cult, around, whatever his work was. Yeah. So that could be. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm going back to it because now my head is my thoughts are thing. Anyway, it's going to be dope.
It is going to be dope. And that brings us to our next big topic, Tim. The Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett.
Episode 4, Chapter 4, as they're calling it. We actually have not talked about this.
No, not at all.
This is one of the first times. We usually chat a little bit, off camera, off mic. So I don't know what you thought. You don't know what I thought. Right. We're going in this blind as far as each other's thoughts. So Tim's hearing my thoughts, and I'm hearing his thoughts for the first time as well, for all of our lovely listeners out there. Spoilers, everyone. Spoilers for the first 4 episodes.
Yeah, first 4 episodes of Boba Fett.
Yeah, so that is your warning. This was my favorite episode of the series thus far. Minus one part. I'm sure you and a lot of people watching and listening probably already know. Reason why this is my favorite episode thus far, because for me, it basically felt like a Mandalorian episode, which it kind of was, right? Because literally the bulk, like 70 to 80% of this episode was seeing the other side of Fennec from season 1, episode 5 of Mandalorian, where she is left for dead, in the desert, and we see a mysterious figure, come save her, which we knew by season 2 and stuff that is Boba Fett, and obviously know that now. So we see the other side of this. You even hear the freaking Mando theme, the very beginning of the episode. You hear it for like 2 seconds when he sees the flares go up in the desert and stuff. So you're like, oh, it's tying in. So that alone, I'm like, yes, I am all for this. And we got, from there, it was also a lot more explanation of Boba's mindset. I felt like this episode explained a lot of what he's thinking and why he's doing what he's doing, which I'm like, finally, we're at least like, you're kind of telling us what's been going on and why he's been doing these things.
Exactly.
Because he's coming, he flat out tells her when he said, well, let me get to the first part first. So he saves her. He saves her, right? And he brings her to a mod station, which this is the part in the show I didn't like. Yeah. Because it's the biggest gripe, not just for us, it seems like most people in Star Wars fandom, from the last episode, which is considered to be the worst episode thus far from the season. It's because I don't like the aesthetic here. Like, I totally get what they're doing. Like, especially after this, I'm like, okay, like this makes sense, where there's these group of people, like these youngsters, these hipsters in this world that they like to, mod each other. And the reason it's all colorful and flashy is because they want to show their parts off. Like the guy who fixes Fennec, who saves her life, literally says, he's like, why would I cover up this? This is beautiful. Like, they want to show it off. They want to be gaudy. They want to be bright and loud. So it makes sense. But like, for me, being, I guess, the purist that I am, I'm like, this is not a new concept in Star Wars, like at all. The whole droids are being modded because Darth Vader is like practically half android. In Empire Strikes Back, Luke has to replace his hand. It's all, robotic and android. So I'm like, this upgrade / replacing your limbs and upgrading yourself has been there since the beginning. So that's not my issue. My issue is the way it's portrayed to be like this hipster, like cool thing. And like,
I don't see it as hipster at all.
It's really like the cyberpunk thing.
It's almost like the style of The Weeknd. The artist The Weeknd meets Mad Max and Blade Runner.
Yeah, but like a Star Wars version of it, like in the sense that like it's this little group that's like thinks this stuff is cool and unique, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's like it's not. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's very cyberpunk, very Power Rangers. I just feel like the aesthetic doesn't work overall. Even the music that was playing while they were fixing her was like techno.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like I feel like if it would have been like one dude that has like a shop full of droids that help him repair people, or even droids themselves that modify humans, that would have fit, I feel like, the world a lot more than the Power Ranger Vespas, like weird, like techno. Like it just didn't.
It very much it feels almost like a upgraded version of rave culture.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if rave culture evolved into the Star Wars universe.
And I get it, like after they explained it, where like that's the point. It's supposed to stand out and kind of not fit. That's these gangs, these mods, whole thing.
Right.
I get it. I just still
don't like it.
But that's the only thing I didn't like in the episode. Everything else after that, man, like I was saying, where he's telling Fennec after he gets her fixed by the mods and stuff like that. He's like, look, I don't want to be a bounty. He's like straight up, he's being real. Boba Fett's being like, I'm done. I don't want to work for people who are trying to get me killed anymore. This is annoying. I want to do my own thing. It's time we get ours, like talking about the bounty hunters and stuff like that. So it makes sense that he wants his own house, and he learned with the Tusken Raiders, which we saw from the first episodes, like that being with a family is stronger and stuff. So I feel like that's even like a cool message and stuff. So now I'm like, okay, all right, it's all kind of coming together, and it just was really good. You got the Slave One thing. How I got the Slave One back was awesome. Yep. They're seeing him and Fennec just team up in that episode was fantastic.
His relationship with Chrysanthemum is developing.
Yes, the Sarlacc pit. How they returned back to that was really cool. And she put the seismic charge in there. And at the end, he's like, "Don't touch my buttons."
Like, next time, don't touch my buttons.
Just building their relationship, like that's what I wanted to see from the beginning, but. Now, given that I understand what they were doing, I'm still like, you could have done that a little quicker. You still could have, even though it makes sense, I'm like, you still could have, you didn't have to waste 3 episodes on that. You could have done that in like 1. But it seems like now, spoiler, when I say the word, it seems like now we're running. Because one of the big things in here is the droid told Boba Fett that he's 100% healed.
Right.
So that would tell me in the audience, no more flashbacks.
Right.
We only got flashbacks when he was in the Bacta tank.
Correct.
So we're done. Now, the next 3 episodes, present, we're running.
Correct.
And it obviously ends with Fennec saying, you got a lot of money, right? He's like, yeah, that's the one thing I'm not short on. I got plenty of money. He's like, well, we could use that to hire people.
Money can buy muscle.
Money can buy muscle. And then you hear the Mandalorian theme.
Exactly right.
You got to assume Mando is making his debut in the series next episode.
But the thing that doesn't make sense for me, because everything you just said, like that was my complete take on it. I really enjoyed the episode. I felt the exact same way. I was like, I feel like we could have gotten here faster. So all of that I agree with. And then we get to the end and she says, how are you on money? He's like, I got plenty of money. What I don't have is muscle, which is money can buy muscle. And then you hear the Mando theme. But my problem with it is that at this point, they've already been with Mando and all this stuff, and it's Boba Fett. Like, you don't think that he knows that money can buy muscle? Like, why does Fennec Shan have to tell him that? Like, he's not, and he's even looking at her like, oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had already been with Din. They'd already gone through that whole ordeal with the Mandalorian and his team. So, I just feel like there's like this weird, even still with Boba Fett, I just feel like there's this weird disconnect. I do, as you said, they did a really good job in this episode of explaining his transition.
Right.
Why he wants to do things differently and what he's trying to do and why he's thinking differently about it. It was his experience with the Tusken Raiders and them taking him in and making him a part of a tribe and him experiencing that for the first time really in his life, of feeling like he was part of something bigger than just being this solo, bounty hunter that was just every man for himself sort of a deal. And him seeing the value in that. Awesome. Loved that. But it's still, there's still this weird disconnect where it's almost like it's like he's forgotten everything else that he knew in a way. Like there's a part of him that isn't there anymore. You know what I mean? Of the part that we all know of Boba Fett that we saw in The Mandalorian, it still felt like that element of Boba Fett that should be for me, in my opinion, I would rather at this point and really throughout, having seen a more careful balance of him trying to be different, but still struggling with being Boba Fett.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Him wanting to do things differently, but also remembering sometimes brute force is necessary.
Yeah.
And just doing a more careful balance of that so it didn't feel so disconnected from everything that we know and have seen from the character. So that part of it still kind of bothered me, especially toward the end there. But it certainly set us up, like we talked about in the last episode, it set us up. This was the episode that was going to tell us one way or another, okay, where are we going? It didn't give us at the end. I really thought we were going to get a reveal at the end.
Like just even
that was going to be
like
the springboard
Mando or something.
Yeah. And really, it was just that little moment there where they started playing the Mando theme that you were like, okay, that's like kind of the tip off. But it wasn't a huge reveal. I thought when they were going in to get his ship, I thought we were going to, because remember, she releases the drone to explore and do things. I thought when they were showing that really dope virtual map,
which is like right out of Fallen Order.
I thought we were going to see like maybe a cluster, a hive of figures inside there where they were going to say like, there's something going on here. And that was going to be like a reveal of maybe Crimson Dawn or something like that.
And they come back around in the present.
Yeah, it's something to that effect, but we ended up not getting anything.
No.
But it's still definitely the best episode of the bunch so far. And it certainly set a new tone.
It's weird, though, because, like, not seeing the aggressive Boba Fett from Mando Season 2, but I feel like if you really look into it, they kind of explained it in a sense where we got glimpses of it, because even when he got the Slave 1 back, the first thing he did, that's still in the past, mind you.
Right.
It was still in, I guess right before he met Mando in Season 2, but he mows down the biker gang.
Right.
And his face is like, revenge.
Yes.
Like, die. All right?
Yeah.
Which was, like, dope in the way him and Fennec just look at each other like, let's get out of here. And then I actually rewatched the episode where he got his armor back from Mando last night as well. Right after, I was like, well, I need to rewatch that episode now, because it was like right kind of in the same era, and that's the same episode that Fennec reveals that like Boba saved me, and she shows Mando, that she's like part cyborg inside now or whatever. But I feel like rewatching that, I don't know how long it's been since you watched that. When you watch them back to back, you could almost see like Boba Fett was so aggressive in his return to Mando Season 2 because he's like, I got my armor back. I haven't used it in so long. Let's put it to work. And he just started freaking like mowing down. And even before that, when he's just hitting people, stormtroopers with the gaffy stick, it's like his motivation was like, I want my freaking armor. Like I was about to get it, and then you came.
Right.
So I have to take down whoever this is to get my armor back, because in the episode from last night, we see he's willing to go into a Sarlacc pit without his armor, getting acid burns just to get his dad's armors back. So it's like, it kind of makes sense why he was like at a freaking 10, just because he wanted his armor back and he just got it back. So you could kind of justify.
Well, he did it throughout the rest of the season too.
He did, but not
like
as
how
much,
aggressive he was with the other Mandalorians from Mandalore.
But you noticed that was a stalemate. That was kind of like it
was, but he was not pulling punches.
He wasn't. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you can kind of justify it if you put it like that. But I do agree where I still wanted to see him more aggressive all around. I'm just trying to like get into their heads as far as like a writer and be like, well, what motivation would I be? Well, he was angry at this point, so that's why he was like this. And so I'm trying to look into the character's brain to see why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
but
I do agree that moment where we see him go and get revenge on the bikers.
That shot too, where you see
where
the
you see
slave
he
one
comes in
coming.
and he just kind of mows him down with the slave one. Like, that was the one moment where it's like, see, that.
So cool.
Because he was still kind of transitioning into what he wanted to be and what he wanted to do. So that was like the one moment where you kind of saw a glimpse of that, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah. Now the speculation, though, for the next episode, chapter 5, because think about it. Anything could happen now, because he's got Chrysanthemum working for him now.
Yes.
Because that was another part we didn't really talk about yet, where they built that up in the show where he's at the bar.
Yeah, that was a great scene. That was a great scene. They go and they try and talk him down. The host gives him this entire speech about how it's a more civilized time and how he needs to stand down and why, and she even tries to bribe him by paying off his tab. And he's just like, no. And he rips the guy's arm off and just chucks him on the ground. It's so good.
So that whole scene with Chrysanthemum was really cool, because if you've been reading the comics, which is where he was introduced, the Trandoshians and the Wookiees hate each other because the Trandoshians take the Wookiees like into slavery.
Right.
So because of that, Wookiees, they do not like each other.
Right.
It is a rivalry. So that's why I'm kind of, for me, knowing that, it was like, yes, but I was like, I wonder if what people who don't know the rivalry between them, if it would mean as much, because that's the reason why he's staring them down. Not because they're playing poker again, when he's like, I don't like your kind.
Yeah.
So that's why he gets up.
I believe you see that in Solo. The movie Solo.
Oh, do you? I've only seen that movie once.
So.
Sadly, I need to watch that again. Because of that, it made that scene so much more for me, because I'm like, they're building on the lore. Like, yes, he hates them, and then even how they're talking about his gladiator past and stuff.
So
I'm
good.
like, this is so someone liked the comic books. Filoni and Favreau liked the comics.
So good,
which was dope. But now, what are your predictions going forward? Because obviously Mando, we even knew that before. Like, that was something that's like, Mando's going to be in at least one episode,
right?
But it's still going to be cool. But now he has the Darksaber, and we don't know necessarily how far. Like, we know that this takes place after Mandalorian season 2. Obviously, we don't know how far after.
Yeah,
So is like freaking Mando ruling Mandalore now with the Darksaber? Has he gone to Mandalore yet? We know he has the Darksaber.
Yeah.
Is freaking Bo-Katan with him still? Is Casca Reeve there? Like, or are they pissed at him because he has the Darksaber and they want to fight him for it? Are they going to be in it too? Is Bo-Katan going to be in it? Are they going to hire Bosk, which would be really cool?
That would be very cool.
Like, you could hire, all these iconic bounty hunters. Are we going to get Valance, which would be dope? And that would make sense.
Very cool.
Because they have the modded people in here, and he's like a modded freaking assassin.
I wonder, I do kind of wonder if we will see an expansion of bounty hunter lore. That's one of the things I think that we may see going into the last few episodes here, is because they're clearly setting it up to continue to explore this kind of feud between families, the ruling
very
families.
Godfather.
Yeah. The ruling families on Tatooine. So it's very interesting to see how they're playing out. How is the Mandalorian going to play into that? And now it's very much looking like, okay, this is going to set the stage for Mandalorian season 3. So whatever happens going forward.
You think Mando will be in the last 3 episodes?
It's very possible.
Because
it's very possible. And I'm sticking with that we will still see Crimson Dawn.
That's a big possibility.
Yeah,
that is still a big possibility.
Sticking with that.
But now knowing that episode 6 is written by Filoni, and now concrete confirmed that Mando is making an appearance within 5, maybe 6 as well. It's like, did he write that episode because Mandalore? Like, are we gonna? Can you imagine if we go to Mandalore?
Very, very possible.
Oh, and he's got the Darksaber.
They travel to Mandalore to recruit.
Oh, and he's got the Darksaber, dude.
I don't know,
because like you said, what if that sets up season 3, where like Mando is now on he's the guy. He rules Mandalore. He's got the Darksaber.
I think that there's no question now, just based on the fact that they clearly are telling us that the Mandalorian's going to come into play here. So I think that it's kind of like highly likely that this is going to be setting up Mandalorian season 3. So I think we might not end up getting as big of reveals as we thought in terms of like big characters or anything like that. Or I shouldn't say thought, more hoped for. But certainly this has the potential to be exploring more deeper mythology around bounty hunters that they employ.
That would make the most sense because seeing iconic bounty hunters like Dengar, Bosk and all that stuff that made their first appearance in Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, like we haven't seen them live action since. We've seen them in like Clone Wars and stuff, but seeing them live action again would be a big deal.
Chances of seeing maybe an older Cad Bane?
Dude, I know that's a rumor floating around. Man, what if he's the big bad? He's like that. He's Crimson Dawn's like bounty hunter.
I don't think so. I think he would continue to be like a lone wolf.
Or what if they hire him?
That's what I'm wondering is could they bring him in, him say like he's an old dog sort of a thing, because that plays right into the Western motif that they like.
If I'm telling you now, if Cad Bane is introduced in this series,
that could be why Filoni wrote that.
Dude, oh my God. That would be massive.
That would be
Cad
pretty
Bane,
crazy.
Like obviously Boba Fett and now Mando, but I feel like after those two, for me, and I would imagine a lot of other Star Wars fans, like Cad Bane's right there. He's probably number one for a lot of people. He's an awesome character.
That is such a strong pull.
And what would he look like?
People would flip out
would
about.
He'd be like half CGI, half practical.
Man,
like
I don't know. I can't imagine you go practical with that. There's too much risk.
Oh man, but like an amalgamation though.
Maybe that. You know, for me, I'm trying to go mocap with that, man, to where that's like a.
And if they bring him in, that's some
if
money.
you can pull it off where it looks
some
clean.
money. Yeah,
that
would be a big pull.
That would be crazy.
Freaking Cad Bane.
That'd be a big one. But you know, there's a lot of directions, but I think that they've set it up to where they're going to continue to explore the conflicts between, because he's got these kind of, you know, at the end of episode 4, chapter 4, you know, he set it up to where he had the meeting with all the heads of the families, the clans, whatever they want to call them.
The houses.
Yeah, the houses. Thank you. It's all this, the families, the clans. It's all the mob. That's all it is. But he meets with them, and he can't convince them to join him in the war against the Pikes to just, you know, get rid of the Pikes off the planet. But what he does get them to commit to is that they'll stay neutral.
Yeah,
they won't get. He's going to go to war because he wants the Pikes out. But he's just commit that you will stay out of it, and you will not let them convince you to come after me.
Right. And
they all agree to that. But
yeah,
does that mean they're going to stay? You know, he says, I trust them to look after their own self-interest, that's so mob movie. It's so like Godfather-esque. But yeah, so how is that going to play out? You know, are some of them going to, like that one dude, I don't remember the name of the guy that's at the other opposing head of the table from Boba, and he was the one that was being the most aggressive toward Boba. You know, it's like you can totally see him, you know, betraying, you know, and shafting Boba. But I think that we're going to continue to see the dynamics of that drama play out, and then maybe expansion of some really cool bounty hunter lore. And then I expect still to see Crimson Dawn come in as the looming backdrop, because Crimson Dawn sets the stage for the First Order. You know what I'm saying? And I think that they're going to be, throughout these series, I think they're going to be looking to make that connection.
And they're, you know, highlighting them in the comic books right now, too.
Correct.
So
that's right.
It makes the most sense. Last thing I do want to say, though, is they also confirmed that Boba Fett's armor is indeed Beskar.
Yes, they did. That's right.
They confirmed that in this episode. Right. That was kind of a thing that was like...
And they're going back into the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, it's dissolved. He's like, not Beskar.
Not Beskar, my lady. Which is cool, because last season they confirmed that Jango was a Mandalorian by, you know, because they brought him in, not by blood, but he was a foundling, like Mando is. He's a Mandalorian by, what did they call it again? By adoption. Or
the foundlings.
He's a foundling.
Yeah, but I can't remember what they call it.
Anyway, they confirmed that, you know, Jango and Boba are Mandalorians, not by blood, but they are Mandalorians, where you see his chain code and stuff like that. He's even like, my dad, Jango, fought in the Mandalorian Civil War. So they did that for Mando Season 2, and now they confirmed that. I love how like Filoni or Favreau are like, we're gonna squash this. Not Beskar. So everyone's like, oh, it is Beskar. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah, really, really great. I mean, for sure, this episode, it left you going, now we're off and running.
Yeah, although, now I'm thinking about it, because I watched the episode last night. Didn't Mando said that Boba Fett's armor is his, because Mandalore got all the metal from Mandalore, got purged during that. So did they confirm it last season too? I guess. Because you remember when he's trying to get it back. So I just watched it last night. He says something because Mando says,
"Dude, we're getting so in the weeds. I'm like, I can't remember now."
Either way, whether it was confirmed in Mando season 2, it was definitely confirmed last night.
Yes,
because he literally says Beskar.
Without question, we now know that this is it is actually Mandalorian armor.
Yes,
that was just painted over time and stuff like that. But yeah, it's dope either way, and I'm very much looking forward to see where it goes from here.
But now it's time to go to the Warner Brother DC side of things, Tim. Peacemaker, and there's going to be spoilers. Lots of spoilers for this segment because they released the first 3 episodes and the first 4 episodes are up. So, spoilers.
You have no excuse now.
I watched the first 3. Did you watch the first 3?
I did not.
Did you watch the first one?
I tried to watch the first one.
Oh my gosh.
I did. I will admit it was late at night and I fell asleep about probably 15, 20 minutes in.
Oh my gosh.
And then I just shut it off and I never went back to it.
Okay, so I guess I'll lead. I absolutely love this show thus far. The first 3 episodes, loved it.
Yeah, I mean it's James Gunn coming back to the same character that he created for Suicide Squad. You love Suicide Squad, so I thoroughly anticipated that you were going to love this. It was just going to be a continuation. Anybody who loved Suicide Squad and that was a fan of what James Gunn did with Suicide Squad is going to be right on board with the show. And
that's exactly what I was going to say. If you liked the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie, particularly John Cena's Peacemaker, you're gonna love this. It's literally just a straight continuation. Even the pilot picks up exactly where the end of Suicide Squad left off, and it's just more of James Gunn's hilarious writing. I love John Cena, especially in comedic roles. I actually think he's hilarious. Because he seems very likable in real life, too. A really down-to-earth person. I mean, he wears the Peacemaker suit to, pretty much all the interviews he does. He wore it to the premiere of Suicide Squad. Right. He wears it on Fallon and all that stuff. So he really loves it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool, where you could tell.
Very much so.
Where Ryan Reynolds loves being Deadpool, and you could tell that John Cena loves being Peacemaker.
I think Cena took a little page out of Reynolds' playbook. Yeah.
But the show almost kind of seems like DC's version of Deadpool in the sense of tone. Obviously not power set and all that stuff.
That and Peacemaker is dumb. Deadpool is not. Deadpool's witty and sarcastic.
Yes. But it's the whole they're hired assassins thing and stuff like that. And it's action comedy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of right in line. It's it's pretty much DC's version of Deadpool, and I love it because it's very rated R. I'll say that off the bat. For anyone out there who's too young or you have kids that you were thinking of watching it with, very, very rated R. Sex scene in the first episode. Very, very rated R. But, if you are of age, it is freaking hilarious. And the action's funny. Dude, just the opening scene. You saw the first 15 minutes. So, where he's in the hospital and he's talking to the janitor.
Yes.
That whole, 7-minute or whatever back and forth, I was dying.
That part where they're going back and forth, my favorite part of their back and forth was where he's asking him if he's trustworthy. Can I trust you?
Yes.
That whole bit where he's saying, can you trust me? He's like, no. Not at all.
I just met you.
Yeah, he's like, I haven't just met you. You can't trust me at all. They go back and forth, and then finally he says, he's like, okay, whatever. I'm going to tell you anyway. He goes, okay, yeah. He's like, yeah, you can tell me anything. He's like, that literally goes against everything you just got done saying. But whatever, let's just say it. And that back and forth about whether or not he could trust him, that was really funny.
But that's kind of the whole, at least the first 3 episodes. That's kind of what happens throughout the first 3 episodes of the series. Is just that witty humor, lots of fun action. Vigilante shows up, I believe, episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I know he's in it.
Yeah, he's in the trailers. And he's hilarious too. His relationship with freaking Peacemaker and stuff, and how I guess I said spoilers, and how they don't want to be friends, or Peacemaker doesn't want to be friends with Vigilante, but Vigilante desperately wants to be friends with Peacemaker.
He's obsessed with him.
Dude, so funny. Or even the introduction of Eagly. His Peacemaker's Pet Eagle, and you see this in the trailer as well, where he hugs him. Hilarious. And there's just so many beats like that. And there's a lot of cool Easter eggs too, which this got spoiled for you, and we already said spoilers, but they straight on mention Batmite as a 2-dimensional imp that dresses as Batman, and he exists. So Batmite is now canon in the DCEU. He
That's
exists. I'm like, that is amazing. And then the beginning of episode 3, they also introduce Dollman, which is like a B-list, C-list character.
Yeah.
And freaking Peacemaker is saying, I hate homunculi. And he's going this whole thing, and he's like, and she's like, homunculi? What the freak is that? He's like, short people. I don't like it. And he's going on this whole thing because like Peacemaker's like a douchebag, right? It's like his whole thing. He's like a likable douchebag. So he's saying like how he freaks him out with his like tiny little hands and stuff like that. But they bring him in canon as well.
Right.
And this is like a really obscure
Which
character.
that's James Gunn's thing.
Yeah.
He loves that. He will find the most obscure, random character. The more eccentric and weird the character is, like for instance, in Suicide Squad, they had the character where his limbs fall off. What's his name?
Oh, not Detachable Kid.
Detachable Kid. Like it's like who picks that? It was only James Gunn. So yeah, you would expect. I would imagine.
TKD.
The remainder of this series and anything else he touches, you're just going to continue to get a bunch of these weird, obscure pools from DC and Marvel because he's still working
that
on
whole
too.
TDK thing was really, I think I said it wrong before. It's TDK, the Detachable Kid, right? Detachable Arm Kid, whatever. The guy who, Nathan Fillion, okay?
Yeah, we know what we're talking about.
That was hilarious too.
That was fun.
Where he's just like controlling.
Yeah. So weird.
But anyway, this series is shaping up to be, I'm already in love with it. It's one of my favorite weekly shows now. And if it continues, it's going to be one of my favorite superhero shows.
Yeah.
Up there with like Boba Fett and everything else. Because it's completely different too, where it's like you get your like sci-fi stuff and this is just action comedy. And it's like, it kind of harkens back to me like when in the early 2000s, late 90s, when rated R comedies were like really at its peak.
I think that's why you love it so much.
Yes, it harkens back to that.
It's more nostalgia for you. You grew up around that era where like the shock jock comedies were like in full swing. And now this is very much, and James Gunn is right inside that, in that lane. I didn't really care. I didn't care for it when I was young. It wasn't my cup of tea. It's not now still. So it's like I didn't really care for Suicide Squad, as everyone knows. And so this is kind of like the same for me. It's just like, okay.
But it's cool. Again, I haven't seen episode 4, so I don't know if they touch on it more tonight. But they kind of revealed what the villain is. They said what it is. I don't want to. You haven't seen it, so I but I don't want to spoil it for you. But it's really funny, and I'm wondering what kind of connections this is going to have to the comic books and who they're going to connect it to and where it's going to go. Yeah. And again, a new episode's up currently, but I won't find out till tonight because I'm staying off the internet because of spoilers.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna try and finish watching whatever is left. I'm gonna do my best because it's like there are funny. My struggle is there's funny things, like there's things that make me laugh, but it's few and far between. Most of the time, I end up going. It just doesn't land.
There's
for me.
also again, I know we said spoilers, but I don't want to spoil it for you. There's also a really cool connection to another Suicide Squad member that we find out in episode 2. Like she's working on the team and who she's working with or who she's related to. I thought that was really cool for everyone watching. You know exactly what I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoil it for Tim. But I'm like, dope. So they're in it too. That's kind of cool.
That's interesting.
But anyway, Batgirl, Tim.
Batgirl.
That's the next DC thing.
Yeah, we've gotten our very first look at Batgirl. And both of us, I think, landed in the exact same spot. It was just like, oh.
Yeah, it was it's this weird, like, amalgamation for me where it's very true to the Burnside Batgirl costume. The Batgirl costume that we've had for, like, the last, like, 5 or so years now. The purple with the yellow. It's, like, the leather jacket. Burnside Batgirl.
Yeah.
So it looks, she's even got the yellow boots. Yep. It's almost identical. Cool. But I was never a massive fan of that costume, even in the comic books. So, you know, and I'm not a fan of leather either. How many times have I said that on the podcast?
Especially in live action.
In live action, I know it's the weird thing where I love the first X-Men movie, but they're the ones who started superheroes wearing leather. And ever since then, it's people kind of still want to do it. Like, yeah, leather. Like, no. That's not what superheroes would wear.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Tim Burton's Catwoman was pretty close. Wasn't leather, but
it was like latex.
No, it wasn't latex. Was it?
I mean, it looked like latex.
It looked like vinyl.
Point is, leather costumes like the CW. Leather for me makes me think one of two things: the original X-Men films or CW.
Yeah.
When I'm watching a DCEU big budget DC movie, I don't want to think CW.
Yeah.
I also don't want to think about the first X-Men because though that movie is awesome, it's like what, almost 2 decades old?
It legitimately is.
Right? So like nothing against that movie. It's just outdated. So we need to progress.
Yes.
You know? So I don't want to see costumes that make me think of either of those two things. And that's what I thought about. I'm like, the leather again. I posted on Instagram because again, that's like a pet peeve for me. The leather
It really
thing,
is,
I don't like leather superhero suits. It seems outdated and cheap to me.
I don't disagree with you at all. My thing was it reminded me too much because again, it absolutely ties to the comics, but in live action form, it's too much like the Batgirl from the 1966 Batman.
Oh, 66 Batgirl, yeah.
66 Batgirl.
It's definitely that's definitely like a nod there. It is very similar to that too.
And it's like a cross between that and a CW show a little bit for me. And so I was already kind of like, how's this going to land? How are they going to do? And I want to be very, very fair. We have not seen anything about this show.
This is true. Just a one shot.
We have no idea what the show is going to be.
Movie.
Movie. I'm sorry. We have no idea how this movie is going to be, what the tone is going to be. You know, we don't know anything. So I do not want to in any way knock it because we haven't seen anything from it. And I want to be very fair to them. The suit was just very underwhelming. Well, I should say the image that got released was underwhelming. I was just like, oh. Yeah. There was too much similarity to things that we've gotten already from CW and some other things that was not the best.
I was also hoping for something, because this is in the DCEU, so for me, it would make sense for her costume to be a little more similar to Batman.
Yeah.
Because the only reason why we get characters like Robin, Batgirl, Nightwing is because Batman. They're all following in his footsteps. So they kind of model a lot of their things after him. So you would think to make some synergy there, it would kind of, at least the fabric and stuff would be more similar to Ben Affleck's costume. You know what I mean? You could do a different colorway. I would want them to, where it's, because I was hoping for them to do like the black and gold from like the Arkham games or from like the New 52 and have a little bit of like that, you know, a little, not all the way armored, but like a hodgepodge of like, again, like in Justice League, how Batman is like, it's armored, but it's like fabric still.
Yeah.
It's not like plating.
And maybe even go a little bit, just go more street level with it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? With them bringing her into the live action, you know, DCEU, go a little bit more street level with it, similar to what they're doing with the Batman, as you said, and, you know, make it to where it's like, it's a nod to classic comics and Batgirl's suit, but there's, you know, maybe more tech embedded into the suit, and it's a little bit more streetwear to where she's more of a, you know, it's a little bit more fighter, looks a little less dainty, little less like, you know, like a like a catwalk, you know, superhero. Well, it looks a little
too poppy, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like too cartoony. It's just so bright and colorful.
That's why I was referring to the Batman 66 suit. Yeah. Because it has that kind of playful, you know, lighter feel to it.
But it's this weird thing, right? Because if it was to be dark, people would be like, why is everything got to be dark and brooding? But now it's bright, so like, why is everything got to be happy and poppy? So it's like that weird, like, you're never gonna please everyone. But again, I just feel like it would have made more sense to be closer to Batfleck's costume. Again, you could still put the bright gold on there, the yellow, because that is Batgirl. Sure. She's not black and gray like Batman. I don't know. I don't absolutely hate it. I just wish they would have gone a different route. And I do need to see more. Like you said, it's not the best promotional picture because there is a leaked on-set picture that just came out recently as well. And it does look better in that shot. So we'll see in a teaser or something.
We have to be like completely fair. We just haven't seen very much. But the problem is that the little bit that we have saw is a little bit too much of a you know, I don't want to say it ties into, but it gives you the vibes of things that, you know, we haven't loved. So, you know, it kind of immediately your initial instinct is to go, oh no, but
I will say
we don't know.
I will say though, the cowl looks dope.
The cowl looks cool.
I thought I'm like, that's a very cool cowl. I even like how it kind of looks like it's made out of carbon fiber, it seems, if you really zoom in on it. But just the shape of it in general, I thought was like, yeah, it's a Batgirl cowl. Like,
yeah, it's a Batgirl cowl.
That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, I don't know. I'm with you on the leather, and even I don't know. It looks.
What do you think about the utility?
It just looks too much like something, like some fashion designer.
Well, people are saying cosplay.
Together.
A lot of people are being really mean.
Well,
they're saying cosplay.
That's worse. That's meaner than what I was saying.
Hey, I didn't say we said that. I say a lot of people are saying cosplay. And there was actually someone who posted a picture of a girl cosplaying as Batgirl, and then this. And I mean, the cosplay was pretty dope. I'll just say that the cosplay was pretty dope. The cosplay looked really good. It was a good costume.
I didn't see. I'm just realizing that you actually posted a side by side of the 66 Batgirl.
Oh yeah, because it's like freaking almost identical.
Yeah,
definitely in colorway.
So we saw the same thing then.
Yeah,
yeah. Because I saw this one that you posted, which was just the original
solo picture. Yeah,
when it first came out, but I didn't see the side by side. But anyway, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. We need to give it. We need to give them the benefit of the doubt and let them roll out their full vision of this character and see what they do with it fully.
No, I agree. I definitely want to see more. But now, comic book news. I like how we're working our way down. Our way down.
So this is actually the first bit of comics that we're really getting to talk about for the year, like as far as new comics.
Yes.
Because we're finally getting some looks at where things are going. Obviously, other than the Hulk, we've known what Donny Cates is doing with the Hulk and Thor, and that's heading into the Banner of War storyline that's going to be kicking off here pretty soon, which I'm crazy stoked about. That's going to be a small mini series that's going to be a crossover between Hulk and Thor. But now DC is starting to drop some bombs and say, okay, this is what we're doing, at least for the first half of the year.
Yeah.
And starting with Geoff Johns' return to DC Comics with the Flashpoint Beyond series.
Yes.
Which is also the return of Thomas Wayne and exploring that character a little bit further. That looks...
There's so many levels, Tim, here. One, the return of Geoff Johns to DC Comics.
Yes.
As we all know, he is one of my personal favorite comic book writers. I feel like you could just say he's one of the best DC writers of the modern era.
Yes.
Like, that's just like...
Easily.
Yeah. He wrote Flashpoint, obviously, which is one of the most beloved, not even Flash stories, comic book stories of all time. So him returning to do a sequel for this is amazing. And also to write Thomas Wayne Batman again, a character he co-created.
Yeah.
Because, I don't want to say anything, but he was used more recently in a certain run. I didn't like where they went with him. I didn't like where they went with Thomas.
You did not. I liked him more than you did, I think.
Yeah, I didn't like what they did with Thomas Wayne in there. I feel like he wouldn't have done that to Bruce necessarily. Anyway, I haven't liked him. I didn't like what they did with Thomas Wayne in recent years. So for this to kind of be like redemption in a way, to like doing, having the co-creator write him again, I'm like, yes. I'm just curious to see like what are you gonna do? Like how do you follow that? Because that's daunting. But Geoff Johns, that seems like what he's all about, right? Like he is all about doing these big tasks. Where he did a sequel to freaking The Watchmen, not even one of the most beloved comics of all time. That is like one of those graphic novels that kind of transcends, and people who don't even necessarily read comic books are like, oh no, but that's just a good piece of work, and like, for literature in general. Right. And he did a sequel to it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fantastic. I think you thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Great. So if anyone could come back and do a sequel to something that was incredibly successful, that got an animated movie that's, so loved. Flashpoint, like all this stuff, is Geoff Johns. Plus he did the first one. So
without a doubt. And it's the show. So I've got it pulled up here from DC Comics. And so it's the actual story itself is starting 10 years after the events of Flashpoint. So that is where we're landing in terms of timeline, and the actual synopsis. First of all, I'll also mention that Geoff Johns is not writing this alone. So
he's not. I knew that.
Issue 1 is with Tim Sheridan and Jeremy Adams,
which is actually kind of,
it's unique for Johns.
Yeah, he's like, he's the guy who's like, he just does his thing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like...
He works closely with his artists.
He does, but he rarely ever has a co-writer, especially in recent years. So I'm like, is it just like exercised issues, and he's doing like the first 20 pages, and then someone else will do 10? Or is he literally just collabing in general?
I don't know. I mean, it certainly, like right now, all I see is we see the first 0 issue, that's a supersized, is just Johns. But issue 1, he's co-writing with Adams and Sheridan.
Is there a page count there? Does it give a page count?
48 on 0 issue. I don't see not for issue 1. I don't see.
So that's a healthy.
That doesn't mean it's not out there, but
that's a healthy like one-shot type thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
for sure. But it says here the synopsis in Flashpoint Beyond #1, Batman's hunt for the Clockwork Killer brings him to Europe and face to face with the Mad King Aquaman. On the eve of Aquaman's sinking of London, Batman infiltrates his stronghold and goes on the warpath for answers. Nothing matters to Batman, whose world is already dead. But if he can track down the Clockwork Killer, Thomas can save his son's world and put everything back together again. Sheridan's quote here is, this is something that as a fan I've been waiting for a long time, a return to the world of Flashpoint. The fact that I've gotten to be a small part of that return is just about the coolest thing that's ever happened to me, and getting to be associated with Geoff, Jeremy, Eduardo, Hermanico, and a team that's put their whole hearts into this has made it no less than surreal. I can't wait for people to see these pages. And they've given us a couple of sneak peeks at some of the artwork, and it looks really, for the people who watch
the podcast on YouTube, you get to see a bit of that.
You're seeing it right now. So the look of it is cool. The concept is cool. Just getting to return to that world is awesome. And the fact that Geoff Johns is the one doing that makes it that much better, because as you said, this was his baby. So I'm stoked for this one.
Geoff Johns is, one of my all-time favorite writers. So there's not much more I could say than, yes, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and right. Thomas Wayne, Batman, is one of my favorite characters and versions of Batman that's ever been created. So to have one of the co-creators come back and work on his baby again, I'm all for it.
Yeah. And speaking of Flashpoint, that leads us to
That's a direct lead-in.
It's a direct lead-in. So Flashpoint.
Would you say we did that in a flash?
Wow.
Yeah.
We're sorry.
Yeah.
We apologize to the audience.
I got 2 kids. I'm full dad joke. All right. I'm not even going to.
Just leaning into it.
Yeah. I don't even care.
Fine. That's fair. I get it. So we know that later this year, we've got the Flash movie that is playing off of the Flashpoint story to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know to what extent. But that's coming in November. And DC just announced another 3-issue miniseries called The Flash, the Fastest Man Alive, which is a prelude to the movie. So this is a comic series that is going to directly tie into and be meaningful to the film that's dropping in November, where Michael Keaton is reprising his role as Batman, or in this case, Old Man Batman. And the synopsis of this one, which is being written by Kenny Porter with artist Ricardo Lopez Ortiz, combines the world of movies and comics that's a 3-issue monthly series that leads up to The Flash. In the series, Barry Allen's world-saving adventure with the Justice League has driven Central City's favorite son to become a truly skilled and inspirational superhero. But when a new threat by the name of Girder emerges in Central City, Barry turns to Batman for advice on training to master his powers. Under the Dark Knight's tutelage, the fastest man alive will have to find a way to defeat this metallic menace or be crushed by Girder's strength. So this is also another 48-page debut issue with issue 1. But the fact that they're tying this in, and they're going to spread it out over 3, with the first one coming in April, and then it's going to be 3 issues that will lead us into the movie. I think that's a dope concept.
Very cool.
That's going to be fun.
I'm wondering how tight, when we watch the movie, if there will be things that people will pick up on who read the comic. Only people who read the comic will be like, oh, yeah, they mentioned that in the comic book. That would be really cool, right?
That is a great concept.
It's because it would force people to, if you want the bigger scope, kind of like the whole MCU thing. If you want, you could just watch the movies, but if you watch the shows, you're going to get a lot more of this picture.
And a lot of, obviously comic book movies pull from comics constantly, but this is a direct tie-in, and they have done stuff like this, but this is, internally, this is something that I have talked about for many years, that there needs to be more of these type of synergistic storytelling where you get pieces from comics or graphic novels, and then the rest you get in live action storytelling. And this is from that vein, so it's cool.
The page they released here, it seems like that is Ben Affleck Batman kind of, comes swooping down above him. And we know this is Ben Affleck's last movie as Batman. So I'm very curious to see how this works.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
Is Keaton going to appear in this comic as well?
I don't know. Well, that's why I'm saying this is kind of cool, because it'll give us a taste of what we're going to be getting in the films. And we might actually see what the various Batman roles are actually what the dynamics of those will be in the film, which is pretty cool. We're getting that several months earlier than the movie.
I'm excited for this book. I'm excited just to see, because it'll, like you said, it'll be a nice little lead-in.
Yeah,
and it might set the tone a little bit for what
sure.
to expect in the movie.
Yeah, and we'll be covering both of these titles on the show. So we'll be covering, this one. I've already got it worked into the schedule, so we're going to be covering both of these. So keep an eye out for those in April, May, June, and even into July, really, because those are
it's one a month.
Well, they're different lengths too.
Oh, you're talking about the two.
Yeah, so like The Fastest Man Alive is 3 issues.
Yeah, 3.
And
That'll
then
be a 3-month
Flashpoint is how many issues is the Flashpoint? I don't think I just saw that.
I had it pulled up earlier.
Anyway, point is, they're both going to be fun.
Yes.
And then the last thing that DC has just announced.
Wait, are they killing someone? Are they killing someone too?
They're not killing someone. They're killing apparently multiple people.
Oh my goodness, they're killing multiples.
Yeah. So Josh Williamson, who is really kind of taking over the show over at DC, he is spearheading obviously he's on Justice League, the title, but he's actually going to be writing in Justice League 75, the death of the Justice League.
They're dying, Tim.
They're dead.
They're all gone.
They're already dead. They just don't know.
Green Lantern, Batman, Superman, Flash, Wonder Woman, gone.
Gone. Dead as a doornail, one might say. And this is supposed to be tying into or leading us into the next big DC event, which we don't know what that is yet.
I know
you're like,
yeah.
Cool.
The death thing is like, in comic books, is like, okay, because like in some of the promo art they have here, it's literally on the news. There's a hooded figure watching the news. It says breaking with Superman's torn cape. It's like, oh, so you killed Superman again? Okay, so he'll be back next year. Got it. I don't know. It's like, I'm not judging. I love Josh Williamson. He's actually a buddy of ours and stuff like that. It'll probably be fun. It's just, I'm more talking about the publishers. The whole like, we're killing the Justice League. The Fantastic Four is dead. Batman will never be the same. Yeah. Like, it's just like, I get it. It's just that I guess I've been reading comics for so long that me personally, I'm like, I know all the little tricks and things they use to pull you in and freaking like keywords and stuff like that. That's like, oh, this will make a headline, where it's like, yeah, you could probably kill Batman, Superman. Then it's like, they'll be rebooted, or you'll find out it's an alternate version of them, or it's just,
There's so much bitterness.
Because they're saying they're going to kill 9 important members of the Justice League.
Oh, everyone.
So it's like, and they might very well kill them, but it's like, they're coming back in like a year or two if they really do kill them, if it's not like some kind of like, we didn't really kill them.
So this is the synopsis, okay? Justice League 75 will focus on the apocalyptic battle between the Justice League and the Dark Army in a dead multiverse. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, Hawkgirl, Aquaman, Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Zatanna will embark on this mission, and only one will return to tell the rest of the universe what has happened. This is the one thing that's really cool about this, okay? There is one cool thing I do like that Josh has talked about and he's mentioned, that they're touting that this is being done around the 30th anniversary of the death of Superman.
Okay.
So this is essentially going to be a play on or a tribute to, as far as like how they're telling this story, to the death of Superman's storyline.
That's cool. That's cool.
So that is, I think, a cool element to this. Having said that, I agree with everything that you're saying. They have been, ever since Infinite Frontier, they have been building through the Justice League title to this event. But the Justice League title hasn't exactly been getting a ton of buzz.
No.
And I think it is because people are getting a little bit worn out.
You know what it is? I was sitting here while you were talking, I was kind of thinking about it. And everything I said before, yes. I said it because I still believe that, right? It's just, what I think this is more of a soft spot for me now is because the last 2 or 3 years, DC has been like, ever since Doomsday Clock, ever since the end of Doomsday Clock, where Johns is like, did it, fixed it, we did Rebirth, you guys didn't want New 52 and all that stuff, got Rebirth, fixed it, here you go, there it is, done.
That was our big problem,
right?
Now.
And then they came back in, and we're like, no, we're going to undo all that.
JK Simmons.
They're like, JK, no, we're going to do all that and do like death metal. And like death metal, and they're like, no. Infinite Frontier is now the thing because that's changing things again. And it's like, it's not like they're going every 4 or 5 years and rebooting or shaking things up. It's like every year they're changing continuity. And then even like going into future state after Infinite Frontier, it's like, well, this is the possible continuity of the future. And they're even in the Titans Batman title, they were dealing with a lot of elements from future state. So it's like, just pick something and stick with it. Like, that's my frustration with DC Comics right now. I love DC Comics. Batman and the DC characters got me into comic books. It's just, stop changing or messing with the continuity every year. Like, at least the New 52 went like 4 years before they shook things up again. Like, every year you're going to change continuity on me with this big, like, multiversal event? No, like, I need some time. It's confusing for new readers. It's frustrating for old readers because you're like, just give me a lot of the classic stuff I want. So that's kind of where I'm at. Again, I love nothing against Williamson. He writes some of the best comics out. He's a buddy.
He's a great writer.
But it's just, as far as DC as a whole, please stop rebooting and killing people only to reset it again. Please stop, at least for a few years.
So again, the interesting thing about this, and I'm curious to see how far they take it, because I agree with everything you're saying, but what they're saying is this is issue 75 of the current Justice League title.
Mm-hmm.
DC has announced this is it for Justice League. They're canceling this title. So, because the death of Superman was Superman 75, right? So this is Justice League 75. They're killing the Justice League. Only one person returns to tell the tale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're canceling. Williamson is like, that's what makes this cool, is that
they're canceling this.
The Justice League is going to go away for a while. And he's like, and this is going to give the audience, because like when they killed Superman, Superman was gone from the pages of comics for a year, right? So they're touting it as the Justice League is really going to be gone for a while. And what is the DC universe in comics going to look like with no Justice League? What is that going to mean for the DC universe? What stories will be told around the concept that there is no Justice League and most of these heroes are dead and gone? So that's kind of cool. That's something to explore. It's kind of been done in multiverse form. Not kind of, it has. So, but how long will they make that last? Because they're not definitively saying.
That's the thing, though. You're canceling the book for a year only to reset the Justice League title in 2023. And how many times?
We don't know. We don't know how long.
Okay.
2 years.
Whatever. Eventually,
I'm going to set the timeline.
Eventually, we'll have a Justice League book again.
And 4.5 months. That's how long. We've got to break a record.
I mean, again, it could be a cool story. It could be awesome. I guess we'll save all critiques. It's just when initially, it's the death thing and killing and rebooting titles thing. I'm triggered by it now. I get triggered because I'm like, because it's been, I normally, I'm like, we'll see what happens. We'll wait. But it's been so consistent with DC over the last few years. I'm like, just stop.
Yeah, I think if this becomes, because we've already said on the show, like DC has been doing some cool one-off stories. Like there's the stuff that they have been doing in comics that are the coolest things, or the coolest stories they've been putting out have been these kind of one-off, stories where they're alternate universe explorations of characters, right? That's been some of the cooler stuff that they have put out. Outside of that, like holistically, I would say DC has kind of taken a step down, and Marvel Comics has really kind of started to really put together.
That's always the way of it, right?
Right. It's one or the other.
Yeah, you never really have both like at a 10 at the same time.
Yeah. Like when DC was really cranking a couple of years ago, Marvel was like, it was just almost, it was very similar.
It's funny how that works.
What are they doing? That sort of thing. And I'm kind of feeling like it's still, even though it has been better than I thought, I'm still kind of leaning towards the opposite is going to start playing out in the live action cinematic side, where you're going to see Marvel kind of taking, especially when it comes to movies, is going to start taking small ticks down with the audience, and DC is going to start really finding their groove and finding their niche and all of that kind of a thing.
I feel like the MCU's new home is going to be Disney Plus. Like they're going to,
I very much feel a lot. Vibe, yeah.
And the TV stuff and the movie stuff is going to not be as amazing as it was the first phase.
It's
or
not
the first 10 years.
Yeah, not as explosive, not as anticipated by fans. And my point, like to case in point, is that you had 4 Marvel movies come out this year, right?
And only one of them really is the one that's like
right.
Everyone was like, "Oh my god!"
Well, Shang-Chi was a huge hit. Like everybody,
it was a great movie.
Shang-Chi.
I really like that movie.
I love Shang-Chi.
Yeah,
it was really good.
But as far as box office numbers and stuff,
just not even comparable.
Yeah,
not even comparable.
And you can't really even argue like because of everything going on in the world because they were only like a few months apart.
Yeah,
like literally Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man. That was like within a 4-month gap of each other, and like probably 2 months in between each one of those three. So it's like you can't even be like, well, it's because of everything going on. No, that's not it.
And Eternals was only a month and a half prior.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you that Spider-Man made that argument like
crystal clear.
Yeah, it was like no, that's not a thing.
And with the comics, now what you're seeing them do, so if they kill off the Justice League, and it turns out that the whole point of doing this is because they even kind of allude to it, like in their explanations of what this is. It's to make way for some of these like newer cast of characters that they've been trying to get going that people haven't really been taking to very strongly. That's not going to be great for DC Comics in terms of, sales and attention.
We shall see.
Yeah, so we'll see how it plays out. But I'm certainly in to see what they actually end up doing with it, and I am a little bit curious because of how much disruption and change there has been inside of comics and the direction that things have been going. I'm very curious to see what they actually end up doing with this, and how serious they are about like making that stick for any real significant length of time.
Yeah, I mean,
you are so uninterested, so unconcerned. You're so unimpressed. You're just like, whatever. Cool. The Justice League's dead. We'll see you next week. I mean, Bleeding Cool put out an article on it, and it kind of sums up your whole thing. It says, DC Comics has informed their media partner Entertainment Weekly of their plans to cancel the Justice League with issue 75 in April of 2022 in a similar fashion to the death of Superman 30 years ago. As all members of the Justice League will die, this is why Jonathan Hickman changed the rules on House of X. No one believes it anymore. No one believed it then either. Like, that's how the article starts. So it's kind of like everybody's general vibe. It's like, yeah. You just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And anyone who's been reading comics for a very long time or even following DC the last several years, it's like, yep, kind of happened last year. Oh, there was a multiversal event where everyone was going to die and everything. Oh, yeah, it happened last year. Oh, you changed the continuity and made everyone forget about their old past selves only to bring it back. Yeah, that happened 2 years ago. Oh, you did. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
I don't know.
I am definitely going to check out and see because I am curious.
I'm going to read it. I'm definitely going to read it, but it's a matter of like, is it gonna be? This is what I'll say. Because I don't. Again,
this very much took a very dark turn.
I love DC. Again, Josh Williamson, fantastic writer. It's just, I'm gonna reiterate one last time. I am tired of we're canceling titles.
True.
We're starting over. All this stuff because it's been their go-to for the last 5 years.
True. It's totally fair.
I get it. In comic books, just in general, you have to reboot every generation or so because you're having a whole new audience.
Sure.
Every 10 years or something like that, you have a whole new kid that's starting reading at 10. He's going to read till he's like 20. So you have to do it. I understand. But every year, every 2 years, no. That's where I'm like, no. So that's what I will say.
Maybe this is what sets us out on that course.
I hope so.
Maybe.
I really hope so. So on that note,
we love going out with a bang. It's like we'll wrap this up with comics is dead to me.
No, it's just I keep repeating myself. I just want a path.
I know, I get
it's
it.
like anything with even the DCEU.
Yes,
pick something
right
for better or worse. Like let's say. This is the end goal. This will be the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Whether it works or not, follow through, man.
Yep.
Follow through, or get a new boss if you don't want to follow the decision.
And
hire someone else.
I think Marvel's making your point for you. Is their events and what has the reason that people have been started gravitating back toward Marvel Comics is because what Donny Cates has really been doing, like the more popular stuff over there.
They know where they're going.
Yeah, they know where they're going, but also they're not pitching everything as like this end of the universe, everybody's gonna die, that sort of a thing. It's like characters change, like there's a new Venom. And they're going in different directions, like what they're doing with Thor, where they're expanding his power, and what they're doing now with Mjolnir, and how there's this separation disconnect with Mjolnir and all that kind of stuff. It's like just good storytelling with huge, really fascinating changes to the Marvel universe, but it's not this. There's an event where the multiverse is collapsing in on itself and everyone's going to die and it's a full reset. Over and over and over again. It's a departure from that. So it's kind of making your point. People are gravitating toward that, I would say, in my opinion, and what it seems like in a grander way, because it's a departure from that.
And it very much tells even the grander picture of that, where you could just see behind the scenes. This is only happening this much because they don't really know where they're going.
Right.
That's the issue here, right? Because
maybe they do, and that's why they're bringing this to a close.
I guess, they're finally like, now we're going this way. But up front, the previous years, no. Because
definitely no.
Even for the New 52, great example. New 52 reboot, and they were on that path for a very long time. A good, I believe, like 5 or so years. They were on it, and like but whether you liked the New 52, whether you didn't, they were on that path. And at least everything was coherent and made sense, and it was there, and you knew, what you had in the DC universe. Where now it's like every year, I still don't like. We're in it. Like, this is what I do. Like, I talk about comics for a living, and I still sometimes can't tell you what exactly is what in DC.
Yeah.
So imagine like a novice comic book reader coming into DC, and that's a little upsetting.
You know what I think was? This is the last thing I'll say on it. This is I think DC's biggest mistake in the last few years was having Scott Snyder do his Dark Knights run and have Geoff Johns doing.
Simultaneously.
His reboot storylines simultaneously.
Yeah.
Because it started with Johns. And then Snyder did what he did, and they directly conflicted with each other. And they tried to make them blend.
They did.
But it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Not in a way that was satisfactory.
Nope.
Or that satisfied the reader, in my opinion.
And then we got Infinite Frontier, which introduced a lot of new characters, and several of those books are getting canceled now. And then Future State was the next thing. We're like, well, because Future State, I don't know if a lot of people know, like that was supposed to just be like, it was supposed to be Future State,
right? But
there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes, a lot of politics and all that stuff. They're like, well, it'll be an event. It'll be like a 2-month thing, and if it does really well, we'll go forward. And I guess it did moderate, so they were just like, this is a possible future. And then they kind of reference it in like the Batman books and stuff now, but as a possible future, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get to that future. Yeah. So,
and I don't know if it was that Scott Snyder saw one vision for DC in a path, and John saw another, and they wanted to try and make both of them happy. And, whatever. I don't know if we should just ask Scott.
Yeah,
we bring him on and we'll just ask him.
Because he's not doing anything for DC right now at the moment. No. He is doing his own books.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was it, but it was those two things colliding, with Rebirth and then Johns' Doomsday Clock story and all that stuff. It just seems like that left them in this limbo where they weren't sure what to do after that.
We need to get Scott on the podcast and do exactly that. Talk about like his like kind of his closeout with DC and like where everything is kind of headed in like his view, like what he was trying to do. And where he thinks it's going. Because he's not with them anymore. So, like, it's like, where do you think, as you left it off at Death Metal, what's happening now?
I'm going to email him. Get him on the show. We'll ask him, and we'll let him answer that for you guys.
But on that note, that brings today's episode.
And it's on a happier note. We're going out on a little bit more of a high note.
That brings today's podcast. What's a podcast, Tim?
I don't know, but we should create one.
All right. Podcast. That brings today's podcast to a close. We'll see you guys next time when we talk about all things comics.